Hello and welcome back. So today we're going to take a look at some of the best guys that you can get to cover both hits and blocks. And this is a visualization I've made basically mapping out both on the same graph. So you got blocks per game on the left, you got hits per game down below. So further out to the right are the volume hitters, the guys that are getting 3+. Over here Delorier 4.3, Shen 4.2 hits per game, and that's going to give you anywhere between 12 to 20 hits in a week if you do a per game basis, and then multiply that by 3 or 4 games a week. So that's going to give you an edge if you're looking for these hits guys. But what you try to do, and something that I mentioned in the preseason, is to get a defenseman who does both. And basically this little area right in here, this is above 2 blocks per game, and anything over here is above 2 hits per game. So this little chunk of defensemen here are some of the guys that you do want to target, and some of them are available. But before we get to that, I just want to mention, look at Alec Martinez. He is a blocks machine right now. So 3.9 blocks per game. He's only 24% owned. As you can see on the left there, 4 assists, 23 shots, 17 hits. So nothing crazy there, but 117 blocks, 3.9 per game. So he is the specialty tool. So if you're in a categories league that has blocks, or if your points league weights blocks with 1 point or anything close to that, Martinez is a must own. You look at Joel Edmondson. He hasn't played a full season, so he's missed a little bit of time, but his hits numbers are not bad. They're about average, if you can see this line right here. But the blocks per game, 3.4, is very good. And then you're looking at David Savard, also in Montreal. They give the puck away a lot in their own end in Montreal, and they're not really great defensively. I've mentioned that in a couple of previous videos, and these two guys are forced to block a lot of shots because of that. So these guys are both blocks, specialty tools that you can find. And obviously Edmondson's going to get you a couple more hits than Savard. In this range, you see a lot of the elite defensemen: Roman Josi, John Carlson, Pietrangelo, Seth Jones used to be elite, maybe elite, depending on how you view that. And then you got Ivan Provorov, who actually is ownable in a lot of leagues. 55%, 1 goal, 11 assists, 2 power play points, 62 shots, 51 hits, and then 75 blocks on the year. So his hits and blocks coverage isn't elite level in terms of being well above 2 or 3 hits or blocks per game, but he's getting a big chunk of both. And then on top of that, he's getting offensive production. So he's a guy, if you want hits and blocks coverage for your category league, he's going to get you both of those plus some offensive production. And that's what I was trying to target in the hits and blocks video I did in the preseason. And one of the guys I mentioned in that video is Jacob Trouba, and he's having a tremendous year. 3.267 hits per game, 2.4 blocks per game. So really getting it done in both areas, and he's getting a bunch of shots on goal as well. He's fully owned up, so you can't get him, but you can get Ivan Provorov. So this is the kind of stuff that you look for. If you look at Jake McCabe, that's another interesting case file. Not a lot of people recognize what he's doing in Chicago, but 3% owned, 23 games, 1 goal, 7 assists, 51 hits, and 61 blocks. So he's kind of doing the same type of thing as Provorov, albeit with less offensive production. But still, 8 points. You're only a handful of points behind Provorov. You're not getting the power play looks, but still, these are some of the guys that you want to target for both. Now, Mo Seider is still covering his peripherals, so his offensive production is down. I've mentioned that on a number of occasions. And if we look at some of the other aspects of this dashboard that I've created, or the other one that I was referencing in the previous video, his defensive metrics are horrendous right now. Same with Sherratt. That pairing is one of the worst in the league. But his hits and blocks coverage is still there, so he's at least getting you that right now. If Sherratt's on your wire, he's getting the exact same. But now let's look at some of the guys that you can pick up for, obviously we went over some of the best blocks guys here, but for hits, some of these guys are also available. So you see, Radko Gudas is one of the guys that I've been talking about a lot since the preseason. 3.8 hits per game, 1.6 blocks per game. But you can have Radko Gudas light in Jared Tenorti. So 3.9 hits per game, 1.5 blocks per game. Tenorti only 3% owned, 5 points on the year, 2 goals, 3 assists, 17 shots, 82 hits, 32 blocks. So you're getting a lot of what you would get in terms of the same type of stuff as Radko Gudas. And then Artem Zub is another guy that he's on IR right now. which does affect his ownership. He's only 2% owned right now. 4 points, 2 goals, 2 assists, 15 shots, 52 hits, 16 blocks. So definitely more hits than blocks, but still, he's another option that you could go for hits and blocks coverage, and he's only 2% owned. Luke Shen is 50% owned. So this is just going to give you a little bit of a taste of, this is a guy who everybody knows hits, because look at the 4.2 hits per game. Everybody knows Delorier hits, but Shen, because of his position, he's a defenseman who's getting that many hits and some blocks as well. That makes him 50% owned. But you can get Tenorti, and you can get him, basically at the dollar store at 3% ownership compared to 50. That's where you can find value. And there are other guys here. Garnet Hathaway, he's a right winger, so it's a little bit less value of a position. 9% owned, 4 points, 2 goals, 2 assists, 32 shots, 106 hits, and 36 blocks. But he's a hit specialist for sure. If you want a dual position forward for hits, you have Josh Archibald down here. Almost no ownership, 2% owned, dual left wing, right wing. Not a lot of blocks, but he's getting 3.6 hits per game. Same type of thing with Sammy Blais, dual eligible, 3.4 hits per game, not a lot of blocks. Blais only 1% owned. And then Liam O'Brien, right here, you can kind of see him, 3.6 hits per game, 0.5 blocks per game. He's 1% owned. He's got 8 points on the year, 3 goals, 5 assists. So maybe the best offensive producer out of the three, and he's got the lowest ownership, tied with Blais. So these are some value options you can get for hits. Typically, Faravari, he's another guy, 3.1 hits per game, 1.5 blocks per game. He's 13% owned, so people are onto him. But again, if you want those same category coverages and you don't want to pay a 13% price on that, you can go and get Tenorti, who's available in almost every league at 3%. So this is where you can kind of compare and contrast what exactly you're looking for. If you're in a league that values hits, if you're in a points league where you get 1 point per hit or something like that, you're going to want to look at this section of the graph, all the way to the right. These are the more hit producers. And then if you in the same type of thing with blocks, then obviously Martinez, Edmondson, Savard, these guys. And then if you're in a categories league with both categories, this is kind of your sweet spot. Anything above 2 is what I would categorize as ownable, if you can get both. So a guy like McCabe, Seth Jones might be there, Provorov, Sherratt might be available, Josh Brown is available on almost all wires, Braden McNabb, another guy. I just mentioned Adam Larson in the Week 9 Performers video, and this is exactly what you're getting out of him, 2.7 hits per game, 2.1 blocks per game. So these are a lot of valuable tools that you can use for various league formats. You just have to kind of take this information and adapt it to the league format that you're in. And if you want access to this exact graph, I also have just a little teaser here. Point producing hitters. So the guys who are, this is ranked by points. I did a previous version of this. And then obviously you can see how valuable Evander Kane is. And then just the raw hits leaders, Delorier at the top, Shen. So this is basically the right side of this graph, just in a different format. But you can kind of get a better sense of how these guys are ranked from top to bottom. But if you want access to any of these, you can find them in the Patreon link in the description below. For just $3 a month, you can get access to all of this stuff. I constantly update these on a regular basis to try to give you guys the best tools to make better decisions for your fantasy team. So go ahead and check the Patreon link in the description. And if you want to join our Discord channel, it's only $2 more. It's $5 a month. And we, you can basically use me as your personal fantasy hockey data analyst. You can ask me questions, specific questions, post your lineup, post who's available on the waiver wire, and I'll help you make better decisions using this exact data. So you can find those links in the description below. That's going to do it for this video. Just a quick one. Just wanted to kind of go over something that you guys might be struggling with in terms of finding hits and blocks coverage, and hopefully I can help you out. And if you didn't get enough out of this, maybe you can pick up this visualization and do a little bit of research on your own and help yourself make better, more informed decisions for the fantasy season. But that's going to do it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.